Hi, welcome to my video. I'm Jennifer Roberts. You're catching me on my YouTube channel, Truedivine44. You can also get me on my Facebook page, Truedivine, and it is the Truedivine for both Instagram and Twitter. Any likes, shares, subscribes, comments are greatly appreciated, and much love to everybody who does that thus far. I put out as much free content as I can, and this is part of it. This is the daily energy reading where I work with the energy, combine that with the tarot and bring a narrative to you to help guide you on your day, to help you process the energies you may feel within you, within others, or just in general around you. They are general, so take what resonates and leave what does not. So the first card is this Lover's card, and we've got this in reverse. So it's a major arcana. It's clarified by the Five of Swords here. And so with this in reverse, it speaks of, there's a big message here. There's a big spiritual message here, in that we have been so diluted from our sacred ancient knowings of creativity, sexual sacred creativity, the energy that two combining in tantric sexual processes can create, the extraordinary manifestation power that has, the extraordinary uplifting power that has for your partner and for yourself. Yet with everything that has gone on, from the start of organized religion coming in and diluting and dividing us as far as our deep spiritual knowings, then even the political stage, dividing us, getting us used to being divided, getting us used to externalizing both in organized religion and on the political stage saviors. Always somebody else is going to do it. Somebody else is going to save this situation. Something else is going to come in and make it okay. If I pay my taxes, that savior is going to come in through the political system and make everything okay. If I pay my tithes to the church, that's going to be okay, because one day, somehow, some way, even though generations of my family have died giving tithes to the same church, and they still were waiting for the day when this external savior came to their aid. So, and then we go further into the entertainment industry, with pornography, the diluting and degrading of sexual energy through pornography. You know, just like needles, certain needles that they give out for free. You know, if you look at the things they give out for free, you know, you can be suspicious. And en masse, there is a mass amount of free pornography, easily accessible. Why? Because it degrades part of us that is one of the most powerful parts of us, this creative sexual energy that through Tantra, through the knowing of how to really connect one whole person with another whole person, to combine, to cause this Kundalini explosion of enlightenment, of uplifting, where we find the Lover's reverse more often in our society now. We find that people are so ingrained and desperate, conditioned to be in a relationship as quickly as possible, to make decisions, to move very quickly in relationships, to have sex very quickly in relationships. And it doesn't feed us. It doesn't do what we naturally can do for each other through sacred sexual energy. And so you find that the Lover's in reverse. You find that there's affairs. You find that there's people wandering out of their relationships. You find that people are making decisions with this Five of Swords to try and cling on at all costs to a relationship that does not work, that does not balance out. And it gets dangerous. You know, we find that the rise in domestic violence in relationships. So with this Lover's card in reverse, it really does remind us that we've been diluted so much. We've been stripped to a shadow of ourselves as a collective, especially regarding making sure we are whole, continuing the work to make sure, maintaining the work to make sure that when we approach somebody in any kind of partnership, lovers, business, friendship, that we approach them and whole, that we take that responsibility. Each and every one of us as an individual takes the responsibility to come at somebody whole or not come at anybody at all. So we see that right now, as we go through this period of refinement, where we didn't do the inner work ourselves, we've been forced to, it's been highlighted, where we have made the wrong decisions and been around the wrong people or been with the wrong people, made commitments to the wrong people that don't match our frequency, then, you know, again, the time that it is in this part of the cycle is that we've been forced to be together again. Problems have been highlighted. For people who aren't thinking any deeper than the surface, it just is really annoying. It just is really confusing. But if you look at it as everything having an opportunity within it, this has all been part of the refinement of self. And therefore, the matching up of frequency with the people around you, especially with the people that you physically enter into, your lovers, the relationships where that deep sacred sexual energy lies. But the divine feminine needs a master to awaken the goddess inside, to awaken that divine feminine. The divine feminine needs to know who she is and be confident in who she is, to be awoken by a master. And so we really do need to level up in our individual selves about getting whole. If we want relationships that are extraordinary, if we want sexual energy that will literally blow our minds and open up our pineal gland, connect us to creative source. You know, if you haven't had tantric connection, if you haven't had tantric sex, then you haven't had real sex at all. You've had a very diluted version, and with that comes problems. So this period of refinement, particularly around self and therefore the people that we have around us, because they're a reflection of what's going on within, we find that we are in conflict with partners of all kinds. The Five of Swords does suggest a seriousness though, which is why I'm sort of emphasizing this point and this deep spiritual knowledge, that it emphasizes, you know, the fact that the way things are, the way lockdowns have been happening, the way stress has been, loss of jobs, things like that, we do have to be aware of the serious nature of domestic violence in unyoked, unmatched relationships. Further down the line to that, we do have to have a look at the people who are closest to us, who we've clung on for dear life, but knowing something wasn't right and haven't taken the hint to be refining ourselves in that department. There's conflict, there's arguments, and you need to be aware of the fact that hostility can grow, and there can be a fine line between love and hate. You can have stuck with somebody and loved somebody, but in this period of refinement, if they or you or both haven't taken the time to do this refining work, to do this inner work, then there's going to be problems. And so it's to take it seriously and really see the opportunities of what it's like to have that kind of connection that connects on all levels, and to stop compromising. Because the more we keep compromising, then the more generations we condition with the same conditions that we've been conditioned with. That, you know, just rush into a relationship, rush into marriage, stick with things, even when they don't match up, even when they get dangerous. We don't want to do that. We want to get back to that ancient knowledge of true connection, true sexual energy, Tantra. And so be aware of this in your own life, and maybe for a few of you, be aware of it for friends. that you know are in domestically violent relationships. Be aware that with the Lovers card in reverse, this is a time when, you know, they'll be splitting up, getting back together, splitting up, getting back together. There's decisions being made, not from a deeper level, not from a deeper spiritual knowing level, but from a reactionary level of the conditioning of, if you've got to stick with this, you've got to be in a relationship. You're not whole. You're not okay if you're not in a relationship. And that brings me to the other point of this card, and I could go on with this combination of cards forever, and I won't, I promise. But it brings it to also that it's okay, especially right now, to be alone, to really refine yourself, to be in preparation, sacred preparation for the partner that you can attract in after this time of doing this inner work to make yourself whole. You know, and that's okay. And there needs to be more people willing to do this before they enter into anything. And so it speaks of the fact that to use this time wisely, to get that divine feminine and divine masculine within, whether male or female, balanced out, to have them both appreciated within you, in your actions and your deeds and your words. Let the divinity of both the masculine and feminine shine through. You'll find that you can attract in, when you want to, when you're ready to, a relationship that is like no other, where there is trust, where there is a sacred connection, where there is love ties, rather than cords. And this brings me to the last point of this combination of cards for today. Because of the way we've been ingrained and indoctrinated to, you know, have lots of sex and rush into relationships, cling on to wrong relationships, all of the above, we have to bear in mind that we are electromagnetic beings. We can have energetic relationships without ever having touching somebody, because that is us. We've been lied to and told that we can't have those kinds of connections, but we do, we can. And they're just as real as the physical connections. And then you have the physical connections of where you do have physical sexual relationships. And because many have had many, you know, it's just been the way it's been for a long time, there are lots of cords attached to a lot of people. And sexual energy cords are strong. And if you haven't been doing the inner work, if you haven't been severing those cords, you're carrying a lot of baggage, and you're making decisions with the Lovers card in reverse on the back of that, on the back of past failures in relationships, on the back of labels that you inherited in past relationships, limitations that you inherited in past relationships. So a lot of people are dragging, you know, a bunch of heavy cords around with them. And when they do try and enter into another relationship, the person that they're entering into and that person themselves is entering into a relationship with all of that energetic cord, all of the multiple energetic cords. And so it's important to do the inner work, to get whole before we think about being in partnership, and to not be afraid to move on from things that are not working, move on to frequencies that match us better. So there's a lot to say about relationships. Again, it always comes back to inner work, it always comes back to self. It can't possibly come back from anywhere else, because we work from the inside out, not how we've been taught to externalize. If you're in this position of any of the positions that I've mentioned, the decision feels hard, but this toing and froing, this fear of making a strong decision about walking away, ending something that isn't working, particularly if it's violent, I urge you to go within yourself and really find that grit, really find that core, and make your decision out of wisdom. Turn that Lover's card the right way up. This is a period of refinement, and we can't expect to make change on the collective stage if we don't make these integral changes within ourselves, if we don't do this integral work within ourselves, because it reflects from the in out, not the other way around. So we can't be preaching this stuff unless we're willing to do it ourselves. We can't be begging and waiting for change and having more divinity and sovereignty if we don't act within our lives with divinity and sovereignty in every possible situation that we can. When we make mistakes, do the work to look within and see why. Find the lesson within it and then move on from it. But look at severing those cords that you do not need anymore, because that's an energy exchange. You'll have flashbacks of memories of people you've slept with in the past for no reason at all. And that's an energy exchange. They're probably doing something on the other end that has exchanged that energy totally subconsciously on the most part. So it's a real thing, and it's real baggage, or it can be real uplifting, depending on who you're connecting with and how you're connecting with yourself. So the second card is the Three of Wands. So it speaks to, you know, with those two cards being in mind at the first part of this reading, it speaks to being brave enough to look to new horizons, that there is a different reality right under the veil, right under the surface of the illusion that has been built up around us regarding ourselves, regarding who we are, regarding our real spiritual united truths as a human race. All the symbolism that's been hijacked actually reveals another world underneath, and the veil is only over our eyes. Most of the time, it's not even a physical veil. It's the perception. It's the perception and maybe the way that we've fallen for whatever lies or conditioning or limitations that we've put on ourselves. So look out to that horizon and try and expand your mind to see what the real possibilities are of a reality without this, those people above, those organizations above, causing the problems that we then have to deal with, causing the problems that make it so our children end up like cannon fodder. There's not that much division. There's not that much difference in spiritual knowledge. It's a united thing when you get right down to the base of it. It's not this side, that side, blue side, red side, green side. There's a whole other thing underneath, and that speaks to your individual lives too. It takes for each and every one of us to peel back those cataracts off our eyes, peel back that illusion to see this reality and walk into it to make it as real as we can make it, and let other people see how we live within that reality beyond this illusionary veil that controls us so much. So we've got the Nine of Pentacles again. This keeps coming up in personal readings and in the daily readings. The number 9. There's something happening on the 9th. I know I'm joining the lovely Wayne Steiger on the 9th. There's good things happening on the 9th. There's justice happening on the 9th. There's lots of things happening on the 9th. But it speaks to this reality that I've been speaking about, you know, beyond that cataract, beyond that illusion, beyond that veil that's over our eyes. It speaks to the real abundance that is there. I spoke of an apple tree a few days ago when we were looking at rehoming a rescued animal, which is going really well. And we stopped at the garage, and there was this beautiful apple tree in the middle of all of this tarmac, right next to the A1, you know, really busy motorway. This beautiful apple tree, abundant with apples, more apples on the ground that had dropped off that were feeding the ground and the insects and whatnot. And still more, if I'd had a basket and something to knock them into the basket, I would have had lots of apples. And they were beautiful, and it was just growing on its own, using the energy around it, using the water from the ground. It just found that small bit of land, and it grew and it stayed. And so there's abundance around us that is free. There is energy that can be created that is free. We don't need to be, you know, raping the earth for the energy. Tesla showed that. Einstein showed that. And they buried it because it doesn't bode well for the few being a lot better off than the many. Things like that are there. And that's why it's important that in our individual lives, we start making these sovereign decisions, that we start making decisions on wholeness rather than frivolous, just I want to be with somebody. You know, it's important that we start looking beyond the veil that's being created that goes over our eyes from the moment we are born, and see the real abundance that is there, that hasn't disappeared. Like that tree, it's still there. It's just being veiled. It's just being veiled. So the last cards are, and I've clarified this a bit further, the Eight of Cups. So this speaks to the need to walk away for a lot of people. And I know that might be difficult to hear for a lot of you, but actually if you start acting in your wisdom, if you start realizing there is more to life than this, there is more than this on all aspects, emotional, mental, physical, and now we've got some cups here too. You know, we just need, we've got fire, we've got swords, we've got earth, and we've got water. And then the Lover's card, we've got the ether. So, you know, it speaks of the need to walk away from certain situations. There's a seriousness here for a lot of people that if you don't, and I don't scaremonger at all, but especially with this domestic violence thing, there's real danger of real people getting real hurt. And so bear that in mind when you're not making these decisions, or you're putting off making these decisions. There's things that you could regret for a long, long time that could happen, that could ensue if you don't make the right divine decisions for you. So the next card to clarify this Eight of Cups is the Nine of Swords. So this speaks to quite a few prison sentences, I feel, but they can't happen until the certain energies walk away. It's almost like a spotlight can go on the right people. Now on the collective stage, I feel like there's a lot of allies walking away from a lot of people. There's a lot of people realizing that they could sink me, and instead of being allies to cover each other's backs, are trying to make deals. And so this walking away on the collective stage shows how important it is, because the only reason the Clintons are still out is because they have allies. The only reason that they aren't wiped from the earth is because they have allies. But allies are starting to see that they need to make the tough decisions to go on their own, to leave these people out in the open where the spotlight can be on them. So that's positive news. In our individual states, the need to walk away here is, with this domestic violence thing that I'm really feeling today, is that there could be a lot of prison sentences coming from it. As far as the Nine of Swords with the Eight of Cups, you know, I know it feels like a nightmare. I know it feels like you can't do it. But again, you've put yourself in a mental prison about what you need to do emotionally, that you need to be in charge of your emotions, your cups, rather than them being in charge of you. And very definitely not allowing other people to be in charge and in the driving seat of your emotions. So I wanted to clarify those a bit further. And we got the Nine of Cups. And so it speaks of there's some people are having some real problems today with substances, with drinking. This difficult decision to walk away has trapped you with this Nine of Swords, and there is an abundance in substances, in drinking, which should highlight to you that something needs to change, something needs to be done. It also speaks of the fact that this walking away, this nightmare feeling of what will ensue after that, the loneliness and whatnot, will be short-lived if you make the right decisions. You know, that you will find alignment and happiness. Again, this 9. So we've got a 9 on a 9, and so this walking away in the 8 of Cups will nullify this 9. But don't be self-sacrificial and start, you know, not mending any wounds, but, you know, covering them up with substance, alcohol and whatnot. The 7 of Swords popped out too. And so this is why I'm going on so much about this, because this is a very nasty energy around a lot of people. This is an energy who will play mental mind games with you, who will draw your emotions like the moon draws the waves, that will sabotage your abundance in your physical reality, that will cause you to have a veil about what decisions you can and can't make. So doubting your divinity, your sovereignty. So there's a serious connotation to this because of what actions could be taken if the right decisions aren't made. But there's also the seriousness of, with strength on the bottom of this deck, with strength to move forward, another major arcana, there is this abundant, real, true reality with this Ace of Pentacles. And then on the bottom of the other deck, again, we have the 9 of Cups. So it speaks of, you know, be careful about falling into your emotions. Be careful about you being controlled by them and you not controlling them. Be careful of that. But if you can navigate that, the abundance and bliss and happiness and anointing that is here with this 9 is amazing. It will feel like you've never lived before that time when you lift this veil, when you go out and find your own abundance, your own wholeness. You'll feel like you've been born again. And so please, you know, if you do, you know, drop me an email if you're in trouble and you need some spiritual guidance or any help to try and liberate yourself from this lack of decision making, to stay in situations that are dangerous. I don't want that for anyone. So if I can help anybody in that department, I will, and I do. So that is the reading eventually for the 5th of September 2020. I hope it helps the right people. I hope it gets to the right ears, that the right eyes see it, and that this is a true day of liberation for those who want it and those who are ready to go and get it. A very powerful reading with very powerful consequences in both low and high frequencies. It all just needs your decision to channel which way it's going to go. So much love. Be balanced and be whole. If you'd like a private reading with me, you can hook up with me by getting the details below this video. Message me on Facebook and private messenger at Truedivine for any energy work, spiritual guidance. Also, you can do the same. So much love, much happiness, and much wholeness. You all deserve it. Mwah.